So welcome to part 2 of my Tracer 35,000 mile review. If you haven't seen the first half, I'll stick it in the description up the top. I went through how I bought the bike, why I bought the bike, and the 5 negative points in the last video. So if you haven't seen that, go and have a watch. This is the thing I love about motorbikes, just gonna nip past everyone. So, top 5 things I really like. Number 1 on my list is how lightweight it is. In my last part of the video, I mentioned that this is the lightest bike in its class. I think it's 196 kilos wet, which is, I mean, it's still light now. I think, like, you look at some sports bikes and they're still 190 odd kilos. It is a small bike for an upright sort of tourer, so if you put this next to an Africa Twin or like anything big, it is dwarfed by it. But it's so light and so flickable. Oh, pigeon. Pigeons are idiots, aren't they? They just fly straight when something's coming at them. It's so flickable. Like, it just absolutely ducks and dives. It changes direction so quickly. No doubt it's something to do with the suspension upgrade that I mentioned before. It just makes it a pleasure to ride. There's no, you don't stop at a junction and be like, think that you're going to drop it or anything like that. And when you do drop it, it's pretty light to pick up. Well, as light as 200 kilos worth of bike can be to pick up. But it's just, it makes riding the bike so much more enjoyable. So that's number 1. Haven't got a clue where I'm going. Oh, I think that was a Federales. So number 2 on my list is the power, like the torque. This bike, like I mentioned before, it's a 75 horsepower bike. It's not a quick bike. It's obviously quick enough, but it's not a quick bike. But because it's a parallel twin with a 270 degree crank, it's got so much grunt. Like, doesn't matter where you are in the rev range, it just wants to go. Which means in the city, pulling away from lights, like darting between traffic lights, and coming out corners and going around roundabouts and coming off the roundabout and stuff like that. That, coupled with it being so lightweight, means it's just so much fun and nimble to chuck around. And because it's only got 75 horsepower, most of the time when you're having fun on it, you're not doing stupid speed. You go 40 mile an hour, and then we just roll on. There you go, 60 straight away, 70. So it's still got enough go. You never worry about overtaking a car. Like, I can overtake on a national road. I can overtake 2 or 3 cars if I really want to, and I don't feel like I'm stressing about it. I'm not having to wind the bike up to get to a point where I've really got to get, like, line myself up and get ready to overtake. I literally just go, right, board of this car now, nip past. So 3rd on my list is the economy. Now, I know that sounds really dull, but for example, I have not been riding this slowly. I haven't been riding it economically. I haven't been trying to conserve fuel in any way. I've been doing that, and I just ride it however I want, and I am getting 65 mpg. I know there are bikes like the NC that do more than that, but 65 mpg, and I'm not even trying. I went through a stage maybe a year or so ago when I was commuting to work. It came from being skint, basically. It came from being very skint and trying to save money. I worked out that I could get 250 miles out of a tank, which is an entire week of commuting for me. I worked out I could do that if I wasn't happy-go-lucky on the throttle, which ended up working out. I was doing about 72, 73 to the gallon. That is just really phenomenal for any sort of vehicle anyway. If I just sat at sort of 65, 70 on the motorway rather than pinning it, when I'm coming up to a red light, I just sort of roll off rather than accelerate up to it and pull my brakes on. Stuff like that, and it means you can really reserve fuel. Now, the reserve light comes on at 180, 190 miles every single time, but you still got like 30, 40, 50 miles left easily. When I want it to, even loaded up, I'll get 60, 70 mpg out of this. And then if I'm absolutely caning it, I'll get 55 to 58 maybe. So number 4 is, I mean, sort of following on from the economy kind of thing, but the price. Having this bike for 7.5 grand brand new I mean, I bought it, like I mentioned in the last video, I bought this for £6,000, and it was about 3 or 4 months old, I think it was. Had 1,000 or 2,000 miles on it, and £6,000 on this is like, you get so much bike for the money. Let's put it this way: if you go and spend 20 grand on a GS, the moment you sign your name on that line, it's lost more than the value of this bike just in VAT and the fact that it's got one over. So I can literally run this bike into the ground, so it is worth absolutely nothing. I've not lost more than £6,000, taking away all my mods and stuff, which is, for me, value for money and what you get on the bike. I think it's amazing. Now, number 5, again, like in the previous video, is a little bit subjective. I think as a bike to ride, I've ridden quite a lot of bikes now. So I've ridden sort of super sports bikes, I've ridden the mid-weight sort of adventure bikes, I've ridden like the GS's, and I've ridden the smaller capacity bikes like the Yamaha R3 and things like that. When I ride those bikes, one of the things I am looking for is, can you ride that bike and properly be invested in it? Is it worth me spending my money on upgrading from this? They're fantastic bikes, and they have better suspension than this, they have more power than this, they have more comfort than this. However, sitting there going, is it worth me dropping 15 grand or 14 grand on something? I just sit there going, like, nothing makes me feel as engaged as this does. Yeah, okay, maybe it might come over a bit of time, maybe it might come when you own it for a year or two, you grow to love it. I've probably spent 7 or 8 grand in total with all the services and all sorts, and I have so much fun on it, and I enjoy it so much that I just sit there going, I can't bring myself to get rid of it. I know that's sort of, again, it's sort of a subjective thing. Like, you might be sitting there with a Tracer thinking, what's he going on about? He's talking absolute rubbish, the bike, which is fine, like, it's an opinion. The fact that I can green lane, I've stuck some knobbly tyres on it and I can green lane on it as well, it just ticks all the little boxes that I want ticking for a bike. Anyone can read stats and figures and stuff and go, oh yeah, that bike would be brilliant. Anyone can listen to journalists going, oh, this is phenomenal. But if it doesn't work for you, and if it doesn't make you feel really good riding it, what's the point in owning it? I'm commuting into London, which is the most tedious thing going, and having something that I enjoy riding and having something that is fun for me to ride, it means that is slightly less of a chore for me. And I think that is what you should look for in a bike, rather than all the figures on paper. I know I've just said that after saying one of the main reasons I went for this bike is because it's the lightest, most powerful and cheapest in its class. I think that was maybe a naive approach to it. Like, I looked at the figures assuming it would be good. But yeah, over the years I've just got to really, really enjoy riding it and really, really enjoy sort of the bike in general. Anyway, I'll stop rambling on now. I think I've gone on for 2 separate episodes now, just telling you what I do and don't like about the bike. But yeah, thank you very much for joining me. If you have got any questions about it, please feel free to put them in the comment section below. Please also tell me if you think I'm talking absolute rubbish, and I will happily argue with you until my heart's content, or you just give up. I'll see you in the next one.